This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
This current year, you've, Minister, allocated over $2.5 million extra for grants and contributions for the Trans Mountain Expansion Project. Can you tell this committee which organization you gave those funds?
I don't have that information. Could you please, Linda? Merci.
Well, let me go on to the next question. You bought this for $7.4 billion back in 2018. You're now over $22 billion over budget in building this. It is a ridiculous execution. Obviously, something has not gone right. The pipe's been purchased. The route is roughly the same as it was before, so $22 billion has been spent on something that isn't, as your government would say, just inflation. Can you tell us what allocated expenditures led to a quadrupling of costs in this project when the hard costs were virtually locked in?
As I told to your colleagues, I'm not the finance minister. Well, I would be happy to turn to finance and ask them to provide written information on this to the committee.
Well, thank you, and I have, and they haven't answered, but thank you. But to add delays and confusion, your department, you, promulgated some regulations last year in June that migratory birds regulations that delayed the construction of Trans Mountain by another 3 years, potentially at Bridal Falls. This is new regulation in the midst of construction. Would you say that you're a little complicit in putting hurdles in the way to stop this pipeline and actually make it much more expensive for Canadian taxpayers?
We would have to verify the premise of your question that first, we have a responsibility to protect species, and we take this responsibility very seriously, and that the migratory bird regulations that were put out were saluted by many. In terms of the added 3 years delay, I'm not sure I can accept this.
Thank you, Minister. Let's get it on notice here then.
Question.
But it's a pileated woodpecker. It's the only land-based bird that was added, and most Canadians will tell you that a pileated woodpecker is not an endangered species. Let's get on to it. It's a group called Community Next Funding Network, funded by, backed by the Dogwood Initiative, that actually found the nest shortly after your rules were promulgated. Can you tell us if any of the money and the grants and contributions from your department actually goes to either of these organizations to help thwart Trans Mountain pipeline expansion?
We fund hundreds of organizations every year. We can certainly verify that. I don't have that information with me now, but we would be happy to follow up.
So please, we'll table out all the organizations that you're funding that are potentially involved in holding up this pipeline. It's much appreciated. And I'm wondering if those are included in the $22 billion cost overruns here that Canadians are bearing. But before being elected in 2019, you more or less said that this pipeline gets built, I'm paraphrasing, but over your dead body. And now you're in cabinet, and effectively you have a different position in cabinet, but it seems that you're in some kind of conflict with the Minister of Finance here on getting this pipeline built. Let me point out, this pipeline would benefit Canada to over $20 billion annually, and yet somehow it's not being built. It continues to run into hurdles, much of which I'm pointing out here today. Now, this is a large amount for us to be actually subsidizing, if you will, the hurdles that are along the way. But $22 billion over budget, years of delay, and yet when we have to deliver oil to Europe, the government's response is, we can't help Europe with oil. Can you see now the consequences of not getting Canadian resources to market effectively?
I don't recall saying what you said. I said if you would be so kind as to provide us with the information, that would be super. As you know, this pipeline is mostly for the Asian market and not for Europe. Most, at least that's what I've read from most analysts and experts who've written on the subject.
Well, seaborne oil is seaborne oil, Mr. Minister. Once you get oil on the open waters, it goes wherever the market dictates it goes. And if ours goes south to the U.S. or east to Asia, that means something else is freed up to go elsewhere. We're not part of the solution. We're part of the energy insecurity we have helped Russia deliver around the world. This is a problem that we've contributed to because of a lack of foresight, a lack of ability to develop Canadian resources. This is on your government's watch, so don't try and blame the previous government for this. And I'll note that, we talk about greenhouse gas increases, and one of my colleagues around the table here has said that Canada's gone up 20%, our oil and gas industry. That's fine, but it's been a doubling of production. So let's look at things relatively and where we fit in the world as far as addressing our environment.
German Chancellor,
Sorry, we're out of time.
EU
Minister, we're out of time. Mr. McLean, we're out of time. Ms. Thompson will